continue this Halloween Horror Fest marathon with a top 5 list. And well, since I already ran down and did zombies, aliens, let's do another one that's seemingly appropriate for this time of year. Vampires. Blood-sucking, inhuman type of people that roam around during the night in search of blood and are allergic to garlic and sunlight and so forth. Yeah, you get the gist of it. Vampires are a big thing with Hollywood and of course video games as well, with like Castlevania and so forth. And they were big a long time ago. Then they sort of died out and sort of came back, and then sort of died out and then came back during the 90s and into the 2000s. And yeah, I think we can all agree they weren't exactly treated with the proper tender loving care that they were given before. But no, that's not what I'm here to talk about, people. I'm here to give my top 5 on what I think the best vampire movies are in this genre. And keep in mind, people, before you go sucking your blood off of me, this is just my opinion. So, here we go. Number 5, From Dusk Till Dawn. Okay, this is not exactly the greatest movie, and it was a rather mixed reception amongst critics, but fans like myself and many enjoyed it for what it was. More of an action thriller, really, with just vampires in there. And it stars 2 of the biggest actors, George Clooney, alongside Quentin Tarantino, who we all know would go on to become a big movie director and direct some rather odd, but rather interesting and fascinating action movies like Pulp Fiction, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and so forth. And of course he helped write the screenplay for this movie. So yeah, it's not exactly the most original idea, with bank robbers who hold up a liquor store out of all things, and of course take people hostage. And what do you know, they come across vampires. So it's pretty generic and rather, over the top. But it's fun and action-packed. So what more do you have to say there? It's bloody good time. May not be the most original type of vampire movie. I mean, it's horror mixed with action. And it's by Robert Rodriguez, who of course did this rather mediocre Spy Kids movies. But hey, he did do Alita Battle Angel, which was awesome. Even though that was a mixed bag. But this one was fun too as well. So check it out if you got the chance. Number 4, Let Me In. A remake, in case you don't know, of an old Swedish movie called Let the Right One In, and it has a very similar type of plot, but I'm not gonna lie, I actually favor this over its original counterpart. Not to insult that one, but this is just my opinion, as I said before. And it stars a boy who, well, has a tough time fitting in with his single mother, typical coming-of-age story, and he gets bullied by a bunch of asshole kids. What more do you expect? Well, you expect a lot of fights. You expect him to retaliate, kick their asses, and he does it in a pretty graphic manner. And what does this have to do with vampires? Well, it also stars a girl played by Chloe Grace Moretz, and yeah, you best know her as Hit Girl from the Kick-Ass movies and a few others, but she, in my opinion, is the main star of this movie. She's seemingly strange, and of course nocturnal, because, well, she's a vampire. They have a rather strange friendship at first, but they soon start to like each other, and, well, what do you know, she fights for him eventually. In a pretty graphic and bloody manner, but it's pretty awesome. It moves slowly at some parts, but when it gets good, and the performances are very well believable. So, if you have a chance, give this one a shot, as well as its original counterpart, which should not be neglected whatsoever. Number 3, The Lost Boys. And, okay, I know what you're gonna say. Joel Schumacher, the director of this movie, who we all know ruined the Batman franchise, especially with that horrendous Batman and Robin movie. But give him credit. He actually does have a few good movies that he directed, and may he rest in peace, of course. Starting with Falling Down, and of course, this movie. Yes, this is pretty much an 80s movie right here. I mean, you can't say that much more about this one. I mean, it stars one of the biggest 80s stars, Corey Feldman, who we best know from The Goonies as Mouth, Stand By Me, Gremlins, and of course this movie. He plays alongside his brother, a comic book obsessed vampire hunter, who happens to run into these other 2 brothers alongside their recently divorced mother living with their grandparents, and yeah, they recently moved in, have trouble fitting in at first, but they make it work. They of course become, well, rather infatuated, one of them, and to be exact, with a mysterious girl who happens to be connected to a vampire gang leader played by Kiefer Sutherland. And, well, we all seen Kiefer Sutherland in plenty of great villain roles, so he's perfectly casted right there. It's silly, it's over the top, it's somewhat cheesy occasionally, but it was a real product of the 80s, and you can't watch this without getting all 80s-ish with its feel. So enjoy it for what it is. It may not be the best, but you could still enjoy it. And for a Joel Schumacher movie, it's definitely one of his best, I would say. Number 2, Fright Night. The 1985 version, that is. And I do also recommend the 2011 remake, which was surprisingly good, but I gotta favor the 1985 one because I've watched this one so many times, even before the remake came out. And, well, I just find the acting and everything much more believable. And like The Lost Boys, it also, too, is an 80s movie. It has that 80s type of feel to it, with its music, with everything. I mean, okay, some of the special effects, especially with the werewolf and everything, not to give too much away with spoilers, but I think most of us have seen this, does look a little bit aged for the most part, and especially at the end. But, okay, stories about a typical high schooler who, well, has a girlfriend and another best friend who's a bit of a wise guy, but he's big on vampires and watches this vampire show that's, of course, fictional, but he believes in it, especially when he notices new neighbors move in next to him. And he believes they're vampires because he notices they only come out at night and, you know, all the strange-looking type of vampire things that they're involved with. He notices that people are going in his house and getting murdered and all that. So what do you think he does? He tries to convince people of it, and they think he's crazy. Yeah, his performance is really good in this. And what do you know, he also goes to his favorite TV show host. Doesn't believe him because, well, what do you expect? He's just an actor. But then he takes it a little bit further when he goes to investigate, and then, like, holy shit, he's right the whole time. So, yeah, it's a very entertaining movie, and it does what's really interesting, all the typical vampire tropes, like the fact that he has no reflection, the fact that he doesn't like holy water or holy crosses and all that. You know, the typical stuff, and what do you expect? He tries to murder him and take him out for good and pretty much save the day. Go watch it for yourself, and like I said, I also recommend you remake, but I wouldn't skip out on this one either. It's, as I said, like The Lost Boys, it's a product of the 80s, but that's what you come to expect out of a lot of these movies, and it has a good nostalgic feel to it. And alright, the number 1 best vampire movie in my opinion? Well, what do you think of when you think of the word vampire? Dracula, of course. Which one? Well, I do also recommend Bram Stoker's Dracula and some of the remakes, but I can't say no to the original black and white 1931 Dracula. In classic and good old-fashioned black and white, the way classic horror movies are meant to be. Just like Frankenstein, just like the Wolfman, just like all these classic Universal horror monsters. Yes, I like the Hammer movies too as well, but this is where it all started. It has that real, fresh, and foreboding atmosphere. It's slow, it's dreary, but this is the way it was made. I mean, you can't go wrong here with showing where it all began, and the performances still hold up well for today's standards. And sometimes you gotta go with the saying, less is more. And they definitely show it with this movie. Sure, you may not be able to see the red blood considering it's black and white, but sometimes this is how classic horror is meant to be. And it's meant to be watched around this time of the year. And like I said, it's just my opinion, but hey, we could all agree where it all started is always usually the best. So, till next time, people, keep watching.